Alright, how we doing, ladies and gentlemen, over on the YouTube side of things? There is a small egg right there in front of me, and this is going to be Fellowship after 200 hours. Let me check exactly how many, just to be precise. 248 hours of Fellowship. Fellowship, by this point, it is the 2nd of November, which would mean it has been out for 14 and or 14 to 16 days, give or take by this point. If you do the math on that, that is about 400 hours. So that means there's maybe like 160 hours that I haven't had this game open, during which I was probably asleep to recover from having this game open. I don't have a problem. You have a problem. They say I have a fellowship problem, but I don't want to stop. This game's too fucking good, dude. For the amount I paid for it, which was 18 bucks because I had extra money laying around on my Steam account, I think I've got my money's worth. I mean, my plan is to go for 2,000 hours, of course, like I have been saying. And I genuinely think I can get there. Probably across multiple seasons, most likely. But the plan is for sure to try and push for it. And the thing is like, this game is so good in the nuance kind of way that those hours I think are gonna just absolutely fly by. Because even as it is, like, these 250 hours have absolutely just disappeared. What I find happens is, like, I turn this game on, I look at my session timer, it says, like, 30 minutes, and then I get a group of people, I blink, and it says 6 hours. And then they leave, I rotate a different group, I blink again, and it says 12 hours. And then I get another group, I blink, and I feel like I should sleep because my schedule, or my session timer now says 24 hours. So, this game is just absolutely exceptional across the board. Reason being, there's always something to learn. Even at 250 hours, I swear to God, I learn something new every single day. I'm slowly but surely heading towards 9 character Eternal. I think to get to the hour mark that I want of 2,000, I'm going to have a very long-standing goal, of which 9 character Eternal I think is a very good start. If nothing else, that'll at least take me to maybe 500 hours, give or take, because right now I'm 2 role Eternal, which you can see on screen right now. I'm currently top 2,000 Mara, even though I'm absolutely fucking abysmal at her. As well as, I believe I've fallen now, so I'm probably around top 1k Helena, but I am wearing the Onyx Chroma for being the 2% Helena in the world, which is absolutely awesome. So I am 2 role Eternal now. The only other one I have to do is healing, which I think at this rate I'm going to wind up having to pick this small boy down here, because I played a bit of Sylvie, and it was painful. I'm not gonna lie. I'm champ plus all 3 roles now. But yeah, healing was very, very painful in the little bit of the champ plus gameplay that I have played of it. Now the thing is, I don't know if I was like extra tired or like, just missing mechanics or missing stuff or what. But yeah, it feels like when you get up to higher difficulties in this game, you cannot fucking sleep. Like, no shit, game gets harder, you have to pay more attention, but like, I don't even mean in like, you have to pay attention at the time that you play. I mean, like, if you fuck one thing up, someone dies. Like, instantaneously dies. Like, if you're in Champ Plus and, like, an Uga Flame goes off, someone's hitting the floor. If you're in Champ Plus and a Wither goes off, someone's hitting the floor. Like, if you take 1 or 2 Flame Blasts with no Master Spells, you instantaneously die. And obviously, that's not going to be for everybody. But I'm looking forward to seeing how the community progresses as well. Because as it currently stands, 250 hours into the game, I've beaten Fellowship, right? I've gone through, I've cleared everything. I got to cover up the small egg's face. But I've made it to Eternal 7 right now, right? So I've gone through, I've done every single key on Helena. I've timed every single one on Eternal except for Ransack of Drakkenheim. I'll show you right here. Let me get rid of the chat cover. I've timed everything on Eternal except Ransack of Drakkenheim. And all in all, I'd say this game is exceptionally well balanced. Because there are characters in the top 100 across the board. Every single character has representation at the top of the leaderboard, which is very, very, very rare in hero-based games like this. Like, generally, it's like a shit ton of some stuff, absolutely nothing of some stuff. And I mean, that is the case as you go further and further, as you widen the pool, there are less and less of certain characters and whatnot. And there are more of other characters, like Rhyme, for example, that is exceptionally overplayed right now. But there is representation of pretty much everything on the board. That being said, some of it's fucking just abysmal to play. And like I said, I want to hit 9-character Returnal, so then I feel like I can have a lot more of a, deeper, vast, and wider opinion of everything. But from what I've played so far, I think I've played the absolute top of the top, and then the bottom of the bottom back to back. Because I think Helena, like, if I were to do, like, my very early tier list, I would put Helena in, like, Ultra God tier, and I'd put Mara in the fucking trash can out back. From my experience of what I've played so far. Now, that's going to be vastly different to a lot of people's tier lists, most likely, but I'm going to be factoring for, like, casual viability. Because some of these characters not only make my fucking hands hurt, they make my head hurt. And I'm someone with a lot of experience in regards to MMOs. So, if some of this stuff makes my head hurt, casuals that take an orb in Cithral's Fall are going to have a grand old time when they get up here. But with all that being said, what I'm really curious about is how things progress. And so far, it has looked exceptional. Like, you'll see right here, the small egg right in front of me has a Halloween skin on, which is a update that they decided to put out recently. We are 14 days in, and they're, I think 14, 16, something like that I just said earlier. And their update cadence is absolutely spectacular. We have 2 patches already, and multiple sets of patch notes. The first week was tank buffs. The next week was more tank buffs, and then DPS buffs, to the point that now the DPS that I brought with me are so absurdly overtuned, they just absolutely red crit the planet, but they needed buffs, obviously. And I'm really liking their balance philosophy, because I've played a lot of different games, and I've seen a lot of different companies' balance philosophies, and not a lot of them work, I'm not gonna lie to you. Most games decide to nerf the top stuff, and keep games exceptionally difficult, keep the struggle for the fun of it. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not opposed to struggle and difficulty and whatnot. Like I said, I've made it to the top of the top at this point, and it was a very fun process. There was some relatively difficult roadblocks in there, such as, like, Drakkenheim was a real pain in my ass to prog. But now that I've done it a couple of times, it's kind of a lot easier to do. Where was I going with this? I lost my train of thought. Fuck. It left the building. Oh, yeah, the balance philosophy. That's where I was going. It all kind of ties together, is because currently, if we hit play here, if we look at challenge, I don't know why. Oh, yeah, the little bug that, like, your eye level locks out or whatever. Yeah, it's, small indie company, quite literally. But right now, the community is stuck in Adept, as you can see with the queues and whatnot, right? They are currently hard-walled at Tuzari. As I've been saying on the channel right now, we are doing Gear Week, which is a little mini event for the Fellow Shillers, the guild that I put together on my Discord that I will be making in-game as soon as I possibly fucking can. But unfortunately, there is no, like, actual LFG resource in-game. So you have to go to either the Fellowship LFG, or in this case, my Discord that now has an LFG, to be able to get yourself out of some of these struggles, or you pug your way up to then hit Eternal and realize there's no solo queue, right? Full party required. You cannot solo queue the actual endgame, which forces you into having to interact with other people. Now, I have a major luxury in this category, in that I can pull people from stream, and basically I'm playing a different game to a lot of people, because you guys have to go on the LFGs that require you to have more gear score than the actual dungeons themselves to be able to play the fucking things. It's like you need to be overqualified for the job to get the minimum wage job. That's kind of where we're at right now. The solo queue experience of Fellowship seems to turn a lot of people off, and I genuinely don't blame you for it. Like I said, if you're struggling with it, do feel free to seek out the fellow shillers. We are a wholesome guild that do our best to teach people how to play Fellowship in a group environment, and hopefully we can make the game a little bit better for you. But with all that being said, I am curious what happens when people get over this hurdle, because as I said, I am 250 hours in. I now have 2 characters in Eternal, and 3/4 of the community is still stuck here, including the community manager. Hey Mish, if some way, somehow you're watching this, get me in your game. I will carry you through to Zari. I will get you to Champion. I will get you to Paragon. Hell, I'll take you to Eternal with me. You shill the fellow shillers, we'll shill you with the team effort. I'll pull you out of the depths of solo queue, and we'll make a miracle happen. But currently, the entire community is stuck here. And as a result, they're balancing around that. Now, what's going to be interesting is to see how it progresses, because the way they're adjusting for balanced choices is to actually bring up all of the characters and damage, rather than bring things down at the top and or nerf the dungeons. Their original patch note set was to nerf the dungeons and to add some extra stuff. And then people were saying, no, the game's too hard, the game's too hard, the game's too hard. Now, from my perspective, this game is exceptionally easy. However, if you are pugging the entire thing and you do not have coordination, that's where the game gets hard. The game's mechanics themselves are particularly difficult. It's doing it all with 0 coordination where it gets difficult, because you need to coordinate kicks, and Enchant Plus, if you just take a Nuga Flame, you die. That simple. So what I'm looking forward to is when this hurdle breaks. I don't know if people go here and then get hard stuck here instead, and then push up here and then get hard stuck over here instead. And what's going to be very, very interesting is to see how the community reacts to this wall. Because like I said, this wall is like the, if you can't kick, if you can't stun, if you can't use your utility, you just die. No questions, no nothing, you die. And the way that they've gone about getting people out of this, or trying to get people out of this, like I said, was that the patch notes buffed the support roll damage. So the tanks and healers got 25% damage across the board, and then they also got more survivability across the board. But their interesting philosophy they went behind was that they actually increased gold generation in Contender and Adept. So rather than actually buffing the characters themselves and doing, like, you know, Rhyme gets 20% more damage, which would then absolutely brick the high-end gameplay, because currently Rhyme, for example, she's a great showcase of the fucking polar opposites, right? Because in Eternal, Rhyme's the best character in the game. No question, she's crazy easy to play, crazy overtuned, to the point that the guy sitting in front of me re-rolled off of Rhyme because he was so fucking bored of her, because she was just that brain dead, right? And he's now playing the Gore and has become a fucking Gore stan. However, in lower keys, for example, Rhyme is, I believe, one of the most played characters in the game, because she is just genuinely that easy. She's the beginner DPS. And compared to some of the rest of them, the fucking difficulty spikes very quickly, very fast. But they can't do Rhyme buffs. Because, like I said, in the top 100 or top 50-ish is, like, mostly Rhyme. Unironically, it is hilariously all Rhyme. So if they decide to do a 20% flat buff to Rhyme, now all of a sudden, all of the Eternal Rhymes in full gear just kill God. So instead, they opted for a gold generation increase in lower tiers to make it so that people down in here playing Rhyme, for example, or some of the more powerful characters who are still stuck because they're stuck in solo queue hell, which is, you know, a whole different issue with the levers and the fucking no penalty and all this sort of stuff. They're able to push their gear up to a point that they can move forward. Now, if you look at the math on how a lot of this works, this is eye level 180, and then when you get these purples, you can get to 240, maybe 260, give or take. And then in Paragon, you can push the Paragon items to like 3 something. So in theory, the way the math works is you can eventually overgear every piece of content in the game, right? Mathematically, you can overgear it all, right? Which is a very interesting way to be able to forcibly push people to the right. However, it's seeming like it doesn't even matter, because I'm genuinely hearing about people who are like 185 in Adept and can't time a Tazari. Like, they literally got so close, but still failed it because they're playing with pugs and they can't coordinate, that they dropped fucking purples, because you get it within like 2.5 minutes. They dropped purples, because they have to be able to go over 185, and they still can't do it. No matter how much gear they throw at the thing, they just cannot get randoms that have hands. I just got recognized in-game. What's up, my guy? How's it going? Let's hit him with a slash wave. There we go. Literally recording right now. There you go, buddy. You'll love to see it. That is the coolest shit. He will probably see this at some point. But yeah. Oh, he's in here. What's up, my guy? Perfect. Love to see it. But yeah, so it's a very interesting style to see how they're going about balancing the game, because as I said, they're trying to make it so that the more casual players can still get good results, whilst they aren't adjusting for the high end, which will push some of the absurd stuff into even more higher absurdity. So the most important thing is it genuinely seems like these guys play their game, to put it as like simply as possible. They are literally in the trenches with us, genuinely playing the game. Which is also kind of hilarious and kind of sad to think about the fact that Hamish, the community manager, gets matches in solo queue where people recognize that it's Hamish and then leave. Think about that. Think about how tragic that is. To see the genuine game community manager rage out and leave his match with no penalty. That's more than likely happened over and over and over and over again. Like I said, I'll carry you. But it's stuff like that it's like, I am beyond belief sure Hamish is like literally talking to the team like, please God, implement something, please, these people just like he's got to have had a crash out once or twice. He's a wholesome guy, don't get me wrong, but everyone has a fucking line. Everyone's got a fucking line. He would have crashed out at some point, probably not live, but still, everyone has a point somewhere. But because of stuff like that, they're genuinely able to adjust for all groups and balance well. He probably crashed out more than the rest of the community. Yeah, more than likely. I would not fucking put it past him. He's sitting there getting called fucking Timu Wow while being fucking trolled by the community. I would not blame our boy for crashing out in the slightest. But I mean, he tries to keep it as wholesome as possible. So 100% respect the whole way down. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how it goes. Honestly, I want to see the next character. If the update cadence stays as it is, it's seeming to be like one small patch, and then one like big patch with reworks, and then one small patch, and then big patch with reworks, perpetually. So if that's the case, then this coming up Thursday would be a small patch, which God knows what for. And then probably the cheese and Empyrean Sands that we've been doing, where you can pull the boss to the fucking wall and do it that way. More than likely. And then after that, the end of the month would be probably another big patch. Now, the thing that's going to be the most interesting, though, is where they decide to put the season reset. Because the way it's going, people are taking an immeasurable amount of time to make it to Eternal, right? And what I think is going to happen, genuinely, is people are going to push past this hurdle. It'll go one of two ways. They'll either push past this hurdle, the whole community will get into champ and go, what the fuck, why are we being one-shot? Please nerf this is OP as fuck. Or They're going to push past this hurdle, get champ weapons, and blast all of champion, get to Paragon, get stuck on Drac, prog Drac, get into Eternal, play to like Eternal 10, and then start screaming when reset. Right? One of two options. Either it's a when reset angle, or what the fuck, this game's too hard. One or the other, we'll see. Now here's the thing. If you end up going down the route of, you know, Timmy gets to Eternal 10 because he progs the fucking challenge, and then the weapon tree just absolutely blasts through everything, then you wind up with a scenario where people want to reset sooner. And if they want to reset sooner, then, I mean, that's all well and good. But if you go down the other path, then people are going to want to reset later because you haven't hit the end game yet. So if you reset when people are progging in champ, then people are going to be so fucking pissed because this whole process they just did of all of this cancer doesn't matter anymore. And they get reset right back to here, right? So it's going to entirely depend for when the season winds up being on how pissed off people are, because overall, I think what they need to account for the most right now is Midnight's release. Obviously, they've already shown they're willing to adjust timings based on Battlefield. Which one is it? 6? I was gonna say 3, 4, but like fucking Christ, I'm old. No, it's Battlefield 6. So they've already adjusted timing for that. So just because of that, it's a showcase that they're gonna be cognizant of the midnight timing, because of course they will be. So what I would suggest they do is either put it before midnight or after midnight. If you put it before, people get to come over here, have their good time, go play World of Warcraft. Some of them will stay, some of them will go play WoW, and then, you know, either midnight sucks dick, they come back, or midnight slaps, and then you go from there. Or alternatively, they wait, and then they put the season afterwards. And then you get all the people who switch over to World of Warcraft on midnight, and then eventually they get bored, or they go, oh my god, this expansion sucks, turbo cock, and you slam it right, like, you know, maybe a month and a half, 2 months after, and you go from there. If they're turbo chads, which is entirely possible, you can genuinely go for 3 months and 6 months. And you just fucking circle them like a shark. You could 100% do an angle where it's a season reset right before midnight. You go into midnight where you're actually just in the middle of the season, and then you hit another season reset maybe like 2 months after midnight. And then not only do you have all the people over here that have a reason to stay rather than move to World of Warcraft, but you'll also be able to pick up people afterwards, and you'll be able to keep people beforehand. Because like I said before, is you need to find that middle ground between resetting people at a point where, you know, Timmy's not going to lose his fucking progress and quit entirely, and your hardcore pushers aren't falling off the face of the earth because, well, I beat the game, right? And right now, it's a very, very, very delicate balance. And I don't know where they decide to go with it. Because as it stands, we're still at the same problem in a way of there's no male tank being the community's major focal point. Which is, of course, a bit of a bitch. However, as I said, they did a little Halloween event. And with that, they released a free skin for every single character. So there's 9 characters. Each one has a free earnable in-game skin. And they look really, really, really good. Like, for example, the little Vigor skin you got right here. Well, if you take his headpiece off, he whips his fucking nipples out. So I don't know how fucking sus that one was in design. But, you know, here we are. There's one that turns Helena into a skeleton. Which actually is a very, very creative way to solve their problem. Because there's no male tank, there's no male tank, there's no male tank. Rather than making a male tank, they decided to make a monster skin for Helena for Halloween, which means that if you want to have a male tank, you have to play 10 games of the game and 10 games of Helena, and then you can turn her into what is basically a human, or not, a skeleton tank, okay? Although, with that, as much as it does solve the problem, I shall end you with something a little bit cursed, shall we? They solved the problem, but at the end of the day, sometimes it gets a little worse than you'd expect. Ugh.